The Dalek Prime Minister was the chief member of the Dalek Parliament, and for a time held the position of supreme leader of the resurrected Dalek Empire. Installed as a genetically boosted central brain for the Dalek race, the Prime Minister took control of the Dalek Empire after the demotion of the Paradigm Daleks and the subsequent establishment of the Parliament of the Daleks. Previously, the Dalek race had been led by the Dalek Supreme, the leader of the new Dalek paradigm. Although the Paradigm Daleks were successful in restoring the Dalek Empire to the universe following their near-total eradication during the Time War, they were mired by repeated failures to conquer the universe, and several catastrophic defeats at the hands of the 11th Doctor, to the extent that the entire cast was demoted and a hierarchy of the resurrected Dalek Empire was reshuffled, establishing a Parliament of the Daleks that the remaining Paradigm units were part of but had little influence over. The Supreme Dalek was demoted to second in command of the Dalek race, with the Prime Minister being installed as its leader. Holding session in a gigantic Dalek saucer, the Parliament was designed to temper the arrogant recklessness of the Paradigm Daleks and create a more holistic approach to strategy. Thousands of high-ranking Dalek governors, hundreds of Paradigm Daleks and a vast array of Dalek commanders all sat in the parliamentary session, scanning the pathweb for anomalies, presenting new tactics or schemes, and working as a whole to further the Daleks' conquest of the universe. The combined mental power of all these Daleks acted as a gigantic biological supercomputer, which was all funneled into the Dalek Prime Minister's brain so that it had all the data it needed to formulate battle plans and create new ideas for Dalek technology, science, or logistics. The exact origins of the Dalek Prime Minister itself is somewhat of a mystery. At one point in the Daleks' past, from the pre-Time War era, a bizarre sub-faction of Imperial Daleks came to exist that, while resembling the Imperial Daleks of Davros' design, were led by a standard Dalek Emperor, who attempted to conquer planets through insidious economic strategies, essentially corrupting capitalism to subvert and enslave enemy societies. It attempted to do this to Earth, and allied itself with British MP Celia Dunthorpe, who would actually outlive the Emperor and attempt to declare herself Prime Minister of the Daleks. Celia's ultimate fate is unknown, but there are some who believe that she was eventually converted into a Dalek and that the Prime Minister of the Parliament of the Daleks is in fact Celia herself, albeit having undergone a horrific transformation and perhaps having no knowledge of her previous life. That's just a theory, however, and since the timelines don't match up, it isn't a particularly strong theory either. It is far more likely that the Dalek Prime Minister was simply grown for its specific purpose. The Prime Minister of the Daleks was responsible for several significant shifts in Dalek operations under the Parliament. The Red Paradigm drones were promoted to an officer class, and bronze Dalek drones made in a style identical to those of the Time War were created to fill the ranks of the Dalek army. The Prime Minister did this because it believed that the design of Daleks fielded during the Time War would invoke the most fear across the galaxy. The Dalek Prime Minister also seemed interested in exploring the Dalek psyche, creating the theory that Daleks actually do possess a concept of beauty, an idea that had been previously dismissed by high-ranking Daleks such as the Time Controller, and musing as to why the Daleks have never been able to kill the Doctor, reasoning that their deeply buried admiration for hatred present in non-Dalek creatures prevented them from exterminating their enemy, as the Doctor's burning hate for the Daleks was something that they actually admired. Indeed, the Prime Minister's fascination with the Doctor led to the two finally meeting during the Asylum incident, in which the Paradigm's Dalek Asylum, containing specimens of insane and hateful Daleks collected from throughout the Dalek timeline, was damaged by the crash of a human ship. Fearing that the inmates would escape and seek revenge, the Prime Minister approved a plan to kidnap the Doctor and his companions and use them to destroy the asylum. The kidnapping phase of the plan was a success, and the Prime Minister finally got to have its long-awaited meeting with the Doctor. However, after firing the Doctor at the asylum planet, the Prime Minister of the Daleks quickly came to realise that something was very, very wrong. The data streams it was receiving from the Dalek governors of the Parliament no longer made sense, as if a huge swathe of data regarding Dalek history had suddenly been erased. Confused, the Prime Minister could do nothing but query dumbfoundedly when a mysterious man calling himself the Doctor suddenly materialised in the parliamentary chamber before leaving just as suddenly. Of course, the true reason for this confusion was that one of the inmates of the Dalek Asylum, the Dalek converted Oswin Oswald, had hacked into the pathweb and deleted all data regarding the Doctor from the Dalek databases. Essentially, she made the Daleks forget who the Doctor is. The Prime Minister, whose primary purpose was to scour the pathweb for anomalies and study them, now found itself locked in a debilitating conundrum. The Daleks had suffered numerous defeats over the years, but it had no idea how or why this was the case. It spent centuries expending the entirety of its processing power trying to rationalise these inconsistencies, but to no avail. The intense scrutiny of this problem eventually drove the Prime Minister insane, and many of the responsibilities of the Prime Minister were deferred to its steward, who was now the de facto leader of the Dalek race, having finally regained its original position of Supreme Dalek once again. Like many other species in the universe, the Daleks were compelled to answer the summons of Trenzalore, attempting to decipher its message. During the resulting siege of the planet, the Daleks regained their memories of the Doctor by harvesting the memories of Tasha Lem, Mother Superioress of the Papal mainframe. However, this sudden revelation caused the Prime Minister to finally snap, and it dashed itself against its glass casing before being declared unfit for purpose by the Supreme Dalek, who exterminated it. Centuries later, when the Dalek parliamentary flagship was brought to the town of Christmas to oversee the Doctor's final death, the Supreme Dalek spoke on behalf of the Dalek race and decreed that since the Doctor was at the end of his life and out of regenerations, the Daleks had won. However, the Time Lords granted the Doctor a new cycle of regenerations, and as a result of a particularly explosive regeneration, the Doctor was able to destroy the Dalek ship, annihilating the Parliament of the Daleks, the Paradigm Daleks, and the Supreme Dalek in one single stroke. Following the death of the Prime Minister, leadership of the Dalek race passed to the incumbent Supreme Dalek, and later on a High Command of the Daleks will be established, made up of many different high-ranking Daleks. While not a Dalek Emperor, the Dalek Prime Minister has a significant place in the history of Dalek leadership. It broke the mould when it comes to Dalek Supreme leaders, as it lacked the distinctive arrogance of previous Emperors and Supremes, and was perhaps one of the most measured and forward-thinking leaders the Dalek race has ever had. Its vast intelligence and cunning made the Daleks even more dangerous, but its desire for control and knowledge was ultimately its undoing. What do you think of the Prime Minister of the Daleks? Do you think we'll see another PM for the Daleks later on down the line, or should this unit be unique? Do you have any theories as to where this Dalek might have come from? And what are your opinions on the Dalek Parliament as a whole? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to
Dalek Bumps.